I'm Jason with the All Things Open community. I'm here with Burr. We're going to talk about platform engineering, developer experiences, Java, and much more. Burr, please introduce yourself to the All Things Open community.
My name is Burr Sutter, and I'm a senior director at Red Hat, and my focus is specifically on developer experience. That's the area I love and the area that I like to dive into on a regular basis.
Well, I think we're going to talk about that. So you're passionate about platform engineering, and as you just said, developer experience. What excites you about those areas, and why is it important to you?
What's super important to me, because I've been a developer since 1986. I've been thinking about software and code and what it means to be a coder for a long, long time. And what I find in major modern enterprises, right, these big organizations that run their businesses on software at this point, when they want to build a new digital experience, a new digital capability, they need the software engineers to do that. But often, they don't think about the software engineering experience at that corporation. A simple example is if a software engineer needs a tool, like maybe a Kafka broker, access to a database, or simply running a container in a namespace, they might have to file a ticket and wait 3-4 hours, days, weeks in many cases. Last customer I spoke to, it was a multi-week waiting time for any resource they needed.
That's not very productive. So let's fix that, right?
Well, it certainly has a huge impact on developer productivity. And also, I like to tell people it sends a signal, right? If someone says, well, your time's not worth that much, you might wait forever. I've actually known developers that actually got extra vacation time in, not on the clock, so to speak, meaning they just basically took time off because they knew they had to wait for so long to get access to a computer.
Wow. So is AI improving the developer experience, or is it making it worse?
It's going to do both.
Okay.
Like all things AI, all the answers are always yes, maybe, no, always, right? That's the nature of the technology at this point in time. So in the case of AI in particular, there's great tools you'll see coming out from the various large language model providers, like whether that be ChatGPT or Anthropic, and tools like Cursor, Klein, Windsurf. All of these are amazing tools that help a developer be more productive. Going forward, every developer will essentially have a co-pilot, a pair programmer that's their digital assistant. I've been doing that a lot myself lately. For instance, I've kind of retrained myself in Java, from Java to Python in just the last 2 months, but I did that by having a mentor called ChatGPT or a code assistant called Klein and Anthropic's Sonnet model. So I've tried all the different tools, and I do find that they do make me more productive, especially if there's something you don't quite know and you've not explored before. So give me an example of that.
Do you see there's a difficult learning curve with that, or because you're used to technology, you're able to pick it up pretty quickly?
There's a difficult learning curve when it comes to building Gen AI infused applications. So if you're writing code that includes a model, steep learning curve there. But if you're just writing traditional software code, like traditional CRUD, right? Create, read, update, delete against a relational database, using a REST API, using something like Spring Boot or Node Express or Python Flask or traditional framework, traditional architecture, the AI models help you tremendously with that code. So the easiest way to think of it is you no longer have to go to the bookstore and read a book. You no longer have to go to Google and Stack Overflow and copy and paste. You basically can just ask the model to give you an idea as to what that code should look like, and often it's pretty close. I will say, though, it's never perfect. Typically, you do have to get the code they initially give you, put it in, see that it doesn't compile, it doesn't quite execute correctly, take the error message, put it back to the model, and it goes, oh, I'm sorry, let me fix that for you. And so if you are willing to go that back and forth, just like you would with another human, it does make the experience vastly better and more productive.
So on that note, there's a lot of discussion about AI's role in development. Do you think AI will replace developers in the future?
Oh, absolutely not. If you've actually spent any time with these models at all, they're really great if you want to write a poem, really great if you want to speak like a pirate, really great if you want to put your face on Santa Claus. And I've done all these things, by the way, tell me a bedtime story. They're incredibly creative. And that also means incredibly creative coders. The downside with highly creative code is it may not meet the business need, the business requirement. Someone still has to go out there and understand exactly what the point of the software is, what are the inputs and outputs and what they should be, and then you kind of need to massage what the AI gives you to make better code. So again, if you're writing poetry, I might be more worried about it. But at the same time, I've actually seen highly creative people who do graphic design, people who do creative writing, and they will still use the assistant, which will give them additional ideas and ways to start from. So I do the same thing with the code, right? Give me a template to start from. Give me an idea to get going here. I've never explored that particular library, that idea, that particular technique, and it'll give me a place to start from. So I do see that value, but I don't see it replacing developers anytime soon.
Thanks for sharing that. I want to go back to your software roots. How did you get started with Java? And I kind of want to ask why you learned Python recently.
So I actually got started in Java in the very early days of Java. So in the late 90s, I was specifically doing web application development, and I got an opportunity to basically say, okay, web applications, which means server-side development at that point, the dynamic generation of HTML, responding to HTTP, get, put, post, and delete. But there was a Java opportunity that was actually client-server at the time. Java actually started more on the client than the server. So there was the Duke flipping through the browser that was what got everyone excited, was designed for set-top boxes. And there was actually a client-server technology based on SilverStream. So SilverStream was a little startup based in Massachusetts that was producing this really great client-server Java technology, and I got involved with that. Then I migrated to the server side, which is where most Java people ended up, as opposed to the client side. And that has been a focus of mine really since the late 90s. So I really got involved with it. My first foray into open source was because of Java. Back in 2002, I gave a presentation on something called Apache Struts. And then just shortly thereafter, I saw the presentation by a fellow named Mike Fleury, who gave the free Don't Suck presentation that talked about how, you could build these amazing things called application servers in open source.
And that led to JBoss, right?
That was the JBoss moment in Atlanta, specifically the Atlanta Java User Group in 2002. Right? It was the JBoss moment where Mark Fleury came with a whole bunch of other software vendors, other app server vendors, and it was a really great presentation because they had to basically say, what was your price point and what was your primary value? What was your value prop? And he gave 2 points. Everyone else basically said, our price point is 80 grand for a new server of WebLogic or WebSphere, or 60 grand or $24,000. And our value proposition is we do the J2E specifications, we have this feature and that feature. And he said, we're free and we don't suck.
Sold.
Right.
Open source history right there, everyone. Follow up for that one. If someone were to get started today, what would you recommend from a programming language or software development for them to get into it?
Well, starting today, that's the most awesome thing I think at this point in time. Starting today, you no longer have to basically say, I'm going to only focus on a certain language ecosystem any longer. Certainly, I grew up in a world where you had to be kind of the Java guru, and that was it. I now think with the new modern AI tools we have, you can actually try more things. So like the demonstrations I'll be showing here at All Things Open AI, I actually have mostly based on Python, also have a bunch of Java in there and Node.js in there. I would say at this point I'm pretty comfortable with Python, but Node is still one of those things where I not nearly spend enough time hands-on with it. But with AI tools, I can get the components that I need, get it to work, and keep moving forward. Just simply understand the structure of an application, the architecture of the end-to-end system, and I can just simply prompt something like Klein, Cursor, right, ChatGPT to say, give me that Node.js Express code that I might need. And in this case, it actually gave me Prisma code, which is like an object relational mapping technology in that space. Again, something I heard of, but I understand the pattern, just not necessarily the syntax.
Yeah, that's awesome. What's one tip, best practice, or piece of advice you'd like to share with the All Things Open community? When
it comes to the All Things Open community in particular, this is a wonderful conference. This conference I've noticed here today at All Things Open AI is absolutely fantastic. The main conference has always been amazing, and being just plugged into that community is an amazing win for you, your career, your networking opportunities, in addition to the learning opportunities, right? So you might be out there just watching what's happening in a session, see a tip that someone puts into a presentation slide, or just an off-the-cuff remark from a presenter or a question that comes from the audience. And that just changes your whole perspective on something. So all those things are amazing. That's why I organized conferences back in the day when I created those things. It's why I think everyone should be participant in conferences. So that's a big win.
One last question. Do you have any new tools that you've been using to be more productive? I know you've mentioned a lot, but I want to ask specifically what you're using that's kind of new and cool.
My favorite thing at this moment is using Klein with a Sonnet 3.7 model. Now I can tell you got to be a little cautious with Klein and Sonnet 3.7. It wants to over-engineer a solution. It really wants to build all the code for you. And sometimes you need to kind of pull the reins in a little bit and say, okay, keep it simple, pull it back, take some of those complexities away. But if you can actually get it on point, it does a beautiful job building custom tutorials for you. So again, I'm not having to go to Google and Stack Overflow or Medium or some other blog that may be out of date. In this case, I can basically say, Klein, I need an example of this Node.js Spring Boot Python application that does this certain thing, like for instance, an MCP server, so Model Context Protocol server. If you're not checked out MCP server, you should be checking that out at this point in time. But Klein, Sonnet 3.7, builds me those things now. Again, not perfect, but close enough that I can actually get in there and modify the rest of the code myself and then use it for what I need.
Thanks for sharing. Burr, it's been great having you. I really appreciate your time today.
All right, thank you so much.